Hello, Internet! So nice to see you. Now, if we all had all the time we want, we will be practicing guitar for hours and hours every day, right? We will be there all day long practicing guitar, right? No, wrong. Why? Because when you practice guitar, you have only a certain amount of concentration power available. Okay? There's only so much time you can practice guitar and still be concentrated on what you're doing and actually practicing before it devolves into aimless noodling, which is not practicing. So even if we had infinite time, even if we had literally all the time in the world, we will not be practicing guitar all day long because we can't. We just don't have enough concentration power to go on for hours and hours. Now, but let's say you have a lot of time, or let's say you want to make the most of the time you have, okay? Well, we have two possible roads here, okay? Because again, we are limited in time and limited in concentration power. So we can either make the most of the time and concentration power we have, or we can learn to increase our concentration power. Today, I'm going to show you how to make the most of the concentration power you have. And in a future video, I'm going to show you how to increase the concentration power you have. This is the inner game of music, guys. Okay, you get this, practicing becomes super easy. Okay, so again, a student asked me, how do I make the most of the time and concentration power I have? And here's my answer to him.
I need help with my focus.
Okay.
So where I want to start is with the current level of focus I have, how do I maximize my progress?
Exactly. With your current level of concentration power, okay, so let's assume right now we cannot increase it. We're going to talk about this later, as we know. But with the current level of concentration power, you need to set up things in your favor. Okay? The first recommendation I give you is this. Do not do an extra long practice session per day. Say, people are like, I sit down, I practice for 2 hours, I feel like a hero because I practice for 2 hours. Yeah, you practice for 10 minutes, but an hour and 50 minutes were wasted, okay? So it's really hard to concentrate for a long period of time, okay? Even if you go in a university, the typical lesson length is 45 minutes and then you take 15 minutes of rest, precisely because of that, okay? But I think they don't do enough in this sense. We should go even deeper than this. So I would recommend, first of all, organize your practice time so that you don't do a single giant session, but you do several micro sessions throughout the day. It's actually easier because you don't have to free up all your afternoon and make sure nobody calls and close yourself in the room. You organize so you have several 5 to 10 minute sessions throughout the day. So you wake up, practice 5 minutes, have your breakfast, practice 5 minutes, go about your day, before lunch, practice 5 minutes, cook your lunch, eat, practice 5 minutes, okay? So it's kind of, you sneak it in anywhere and everywhere, which has several advantages. Because, say, you miss one practice session, so what? You lost 5 minutes, okay? You have more time in the day, sneak in a few more. It's very flexible, okay? And the other thing is that you're always fresh. Now, there are pros and cons, because the pro is that you're always fresh, you're always ready, your concentration is at its peak all the time. The problem is that you are not warmed up, okay? This means that if you're doing pure technique or pure speed, it needs to be a bit longer than 5 minutes. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. So the first few minutes you warm up, and then you go in for the super fast exercises, the technique optimization, and all this. Okay, but still, you can go really, really far with just those mini practices. Okay, I did it. It works great. You know how sometimes you have. I don't know what job you're doing right now, but if you, for instance, if you work from home like me, sometimes you're writing an email, you have to do another thing, and then you have to wait for somebody to answer. Practice, okay? So just try to practice every time. There was somebody once, there's this story, and somebody asked, and the name changes every time. Somebody asked, Miles Davis or somebody ask somebody else, okay, how much a musician has to practice, and the famous person whose name changes every time somebody tells this story said, oh, a musician practices all the time, with a few small rests for eating and sleeping, and maybe go about your day job. Okay, but that's the attitude. Every time you're not doing anything else, your default state is practice. Okay, and you get better much, much, much faster this way. The great enemy of concentration power is boredom. Okay, so you practice something and you're bored, and then you start noodling and doing something else. Okay, and people call this procrastination. Okay, it happens. You find that you're practicing, a moment later you find yourself scrolling on Facebook because you're bored, or maybe not that. Maybe you just find yourself noodling around and not doing the exercise. So here's a possible solution. It works for me, and it worked for a few people that I talked about. You do what is called creative procrastination. You are working on 3 or 4 different things at a time. Whenever you get bored of one, you procrastinate by doing one of the other ones. And whenever you get tired of this one, you procrastinate by doing the next one. Okay? So you're always procrastinating. I have a schedule of what I have to practice. I look at that. I think, no, that's boring. And I do the next item. Okay? So I kind of trick myself into thinking I am procrastinating, or thinking I'm tricking myself that I'm going against my own schedule, when in reality I just shifted the schedule 5 minutes up. Okay? It's a silly trick. But for some reason, it works great. Okay? Makes sense?
Yeah. How do you make sure you're still on track, though?
Because I'm always working on those 3 or 4 things. And if I'm procrastinating on A to do B, the day after I'm procrastinating on B by doing A. So, okay. So the thing is, I'm still working on those 3 things. Make sense? Mm-hmm. But essentially, I still leave myself some freedom on what I want to practice. And then every now and then I just check, am I on the right track? Am I on schedule with my goals and all these kind of things? Okay? But see, that's the thing. I like to have goals written down for my practice. I like having my track and having all those micro goals, like I need to increase the speed in 7 days and all this kind of thing. But at the same time, this instrument is supposed to be fun. If you put too much structures into it, it's not fun anymore. If you put no structure, it's not fun either, because you're not doing anything. So you need to find the right equilibrium point. Mm-hmm. Am I making sense?
I think I am on both extremes at the moment. I shift between no structure and all the structure, and then I don't do the structure because it's too much.
Mm-hmm. Find something in between. Okay, find something. Say, one possible idea is this, that you schedule 5 minutes. The first practice of the day, 5 minutes is about scales. The next 5 minutes are about arpeggios, okay? But it could be any scale exercise. You don't write down, play the Lydian scale up and down, okay? It can be any scale, okay? One thing I used to do for a time, and it worked great for me, is this. Every exercise I wanted to do, I was either writing it down or printing it and putting it in a folder. So I have my folder for scale exercises, my folder for arpeggio exercises, my folder for chord tone exercises. I mean, this doesn't need to be only technical, it could be theory. My folder for chord progressions and all this kind of, make sense?
Yeah, I've had that since I started.
Yes. Then I have my schedule that says 10 minutes of scales. I grab my folder, I open it, I do the first exercise. If I don't like it, I just flip it, put these under at the bottom of the folder, and do the second, or so on and so forth. I mean, I just flip around until I find something I like, and I do it. If I really don't like doing scales, I close and go on the next item, okay? And I put the whole folder on the bottom. So this way, I'm never practicing something that I don't feel like practicing in a specific moment, because I give myself the choice. The trick is to make this choice as fast as possible, so you don't spend 4 minutes and a half choosing what you want to practice and then have 30 seconds practicing it.
And to make sure you're still practicing what's relevant.
Yes, but that's the thing. Everything that is not relevant, you take it out of the folders, so it's not on the table, like literally not on the table, okay? Makes sense? Mm-hmm. You just stack all the system in your favor so that you can do both what is relevant and what you feel like to do in that moment. Also, you have to schedule some fun. You cannot, if you have 2 hours to practice the guitar every day, which is quite a lot if you have it, okay? But I mean, don't want to assume you have this time or you have less or more. I'm just saying a number, okay? But if you have 2 hours, you want to schedule half an hour to 1 hour of fun out of that. okay, where you learn the songs you want, or learn a solo, just improvise, goof off, experiment, noodle around, make noise, whatever. Crank the amp up until the neighbors complain, okay, and all this kind of thing. Make sense? Because that's the thing. This instrument is supposed to be fun. Okay, the whole point of this instrument was invented to have fun. Okay, as opposed to many other instruments, okay, that are torture devices or other things, okay, or they could be wonderful instruments, but this was explicitly made to have fun. It was explicitly made to make a loud, stinky noise, okay, louder than any other instrument, okay, so that we could have fun. If you're always regimented and technical and clinical and analytical, you lose the point of this. And then you're not having any fun, and you don't sound good anymore either. So there must be some time when you can tell yourself, now, that's my time to do whatever I want with these. Which, by the way, in some days will also be like, okay, I'm putting it down and then do something else, because that could happen. But in some days, it's just, I'm going to wake up, all the people 3 blocks from here were taking the nap, okay? So far, so good?
Yep.
Like it? Fantastic. So that will be your first question.
Thank you.